History is full of daring raids and epic battles, but sometimes, the biggest turning points come from a single, colossal mistake. This is the story of how one German pilot's wrong turn handed the Allies their most prized possession of World War II. The year is 1945. The skies over Europe are a deadly arena. Germany, desperate to turn the tide of the war, unleashes a revolutionary new weapon, the Messerschmitt Me 262 Schwalbe or Swallow. This wasn't just another propeller plane. It was the world's first operational jet fighter, with a top speed of over 540 miles per hour. It was nearly 120 miles per hour faster than the best Allied fighters, like the P-51 Mustang. It could climb faster, fly higher, and carried devastating cannons. For Allied bomber crews, the sight of a Me-262 streaking through their formation was a vision of certain doom. Allied pilots called them blowjobs because they appeared and disappeared so quickly. Capturing one, intact, became the Allies' #1 intelligence priority. They needed to understand its secrets, to find its weaknesses, and to level the playing field. Special commando units were even trained for missions to snatch one from a German airfield, missions that were considered almost suicidal, but in the end, they wouldn't need them. Our story centers on a Luftwaffe pilot, Oberleutnant Franz Stigler. Now, it's important to clarify, this isn't the famous Franz Stigler known for escorting a damaged B-17 to safety. This is another pilot with the same last name, whose single flight would have an equally profound, though very different, impact on the war. In late March 1945, Stigler was tasked with flying a brand new Me-262. He took off, but as he flew, something went terribly wrong. Maybe it was the notoriously unreliable navigation equipment of the era, the stress of combat, or simply a moment of disorientation in the vast, unforgiving sky. Whatever the cause, he got lost. Utterly and completely lost. His fuel gauge was dropping dangerously low. Panic must have started to set in. Below him, he spotted an airfield that looked familiar. It had German-style hangars and layouts. Relief washed over him. Believing he had found a friendly base within German-held territory, he lowered his landing gear and began his final approach. The landing was smooth. He taxied the revolutionary jet fighter off the runway, the whine of its Junkers Jumo 004 engines echoing across the field. He shut down the engines, the sudden silence deafening. He had made it, or so he thought. As he opened the cockpit canopy, he wasn't greeted by fellow Luftwaffe ground crew. Instead, he found himself staring down the barrels of American rifles. The soldiers who surrounded him were just as stunned as he was. They were looking at a ghost, a mythical superweapon they'd only heard about in hushed briefings. Stigler had accidentally landed at a captured German airfield near Frankfurt, a base now firmly in the hands of the US Army. The realization must have been sickening. He had just delivered Germany's most precious military secret, gift-wrapped directly to the enemy. There was no time to trigger the plane's self-destruct charges. No chance to set it ablaze. He was captured instantly, and his pristine Me-262 fell into Allied hands without a single shot being fired. For Allied intelligence, it was like winning the lottery. They didn't just have wreckage or pilot reports anymore. They had a living, breathing Me-262. It was flyable, fully equipped, and ready for inspection. They nicknamed it Marge. Top American test pilots, including the legendary Chuck Yeager, were brought in to fly it. They pushed it to its limits, discovering its incredible strengths, but also its critical weaknesses. They learned about its slow engine throttle response, its vulnerability during takeoff and landing, and the short lifespan of its jet engines. This wasn't just theory, it was hard, practical data. They took the aircraft completely apart, screw by screw. Engineers swarmed over the revolutionary axial flow jet engines and the swept-wing design elements. It was an engineering goldmine. The capture of Stigler's Me-262 had an immediate impact. Allied fighter pilots were now briefed on the best tactics to use against the jets. Instead of trying to dogfight them in high-speed combat, they were taught to ambush them near their airfields, when they were slow and vulnerable. This knowledge saved countless lives in the final weeks of the war. But the long-term consequences were even more significant. The secrets unlocked from that single aircraft accelerated jet development in the West by years. The data on its advanced aerodynamics and engine technology was shared between the Americans and the British. This information flowed directly into the design of the next generation of American fighters. When you look at the American F-86 Sabre, one of the most iconic jets of the Korean War, you can see the DNA of the Me-262 in its design, particularly its swept wings. Ironically, Soviet engineers were also beneficiaries. At the end of the war, they captured German factories and research data, which heavily influenced their own jet fighter, the formidable MiG-15. This meant that the two primary adversaries of the Cold War's first major air conflict, the Fatih-6 and the MiG-15, were in a way technological cousins, both descending from the German jet that Franz Stigler accidentally landed on the wrong runway. A single pilot's navigational error didn't just hand over a plane. It effectively ended Germany's technological edge in the air and set the stage for the next 50 years of aerial combat. It's a powerful reminder that in war and in history, sometimes the smallest mistakes have the largest consequences. A wrong turn in the sky redrew the map of aviation technology for the entire world. Thanks for watching.